Welcome to Sujan's chat room. I'd like to welcome you to the New Beginnings, where we share great experiences. I'm your host, Sujan, and this is my special guest, Charlotte DeLon from Fair Chance Consulting, author of Trauma in the Workplace. This is where we share business and life coaching.
Well, hello, hello. Welcome to Sujan Speaks Chat and Sip. I'm your host, Sujan, and tonight we have a wonderful, wonderful guest. We have the amazing Charlotte DeLon. And listen, guys, for all y'all who are 9 to 5ers, you better listen up because we got some juice to tell you. She's an amazing author. She's a keynote speaker. Oh my gosh, beautiful. This is Charlotte DeLon. Charlotte, welcome, my love.
Thank you. And I have my wine. My name is Charlotte DeLon, as she said, and I am considered the possibility coach. I have a business and it's called Fair Chance Consulting. And I started this business because I was continuously overlooked, marginalized, berated. Just abused on a day-to-day basis. And I always tell people I have 30 years of experience, or 30 plus. I'm aging myself. And recently, I wrote my book, Trauma in the Workplace, I Need Help. And it was because after reading an article, and they were talking about different levels of discrimination that people go through depending on their race. And I call it depending on their hue. So from the white to Asian, they even broke out Indian and Hispanic to Black. The Black was most egregious, and the woman in the article had considered suicide.
Mm.
And so as a result, I understood that I had the responsibility. I could no longer sit on my experiences. So when Sue Jen came to my book signing, I was like, oh my gosh, she's gorgeous, and wanted to know her. And I just want to thank you so much for having me.
It was such a pleasure meeting you, and um, I can't wait to read this book. I really can't. Um, and guys, we're going to tell you how to get this book, but she's going to get deep into it in a minute. And it's got a lot of information in here that you probably can relate to, you know. And I got it because I need some therapy myself because we'll get into it as we talk, but I want you to just kind of talk about your experiences, what information you can share to the guests who are watching tonight, um,
Mhm.
how you can inspire them, and why should they get this book, because it will help them probably.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
we want to know why. All right, so
All right. So I will tell you, this book starts with me being on the blacktop as an elementary school kid, trying to, you have friends, or you think they're your friends, and then they quickly turn into your enemies, and you really don't know why. We fast forward because you think bullying stops as a child, and then you realize, no, it follows you into the corporate sector as well. And most of the issues that I've experienced is you decide to tell or speak up. Ethics says, see something, say something. My experience has been you can see something, say something, but you better brace yourself because chances are the corporations are not going to help you. When I first started writing the book, to be honest with you, it was more about therapy and healing and getting all my anger and frustration out. But then I took the time to think about it and say, I went through a lot. What did God expect me to learn from these experiences that I can share with others? And so the book went from being very angry, it went through a lot of iterations to get to the non angry part. And it became more about here's the experience and what did I learn? So, for example, one of my experiences was I was fresh out of college in the early 90s. I was the only African American in the space as an engineer, and there was one other African American, and she was the admin assistant. And I must have been a few days on the job, not very long. I walk in, my boss tells me to go ask this man something. To this day, I don't remember what I had to ask him. All I remember is he yelled at me so loud that it caused everyone in the entire office to stop. So I'm standing there and I'm like stuck, like not knowing what to do. And my initial thought was, I can't say anything because if I do, I might get fired and I need this job. I'm fresh out of college thinking I have no options. And this admin comes over and she grabs me by the arm and she takes me to the bathroom. And her words were, I don't care what you have to do, but you never let them see you sweat. She's like, if you got to come into this bathroom and cry it out, put some Visine in your eyes, do what you got to do, but you will not cry in front of your bullies. It was the best advice that she ever gave me. I carry Visine with me daily because I never knew what was going to happen. But that was the beginning of the bullying. And when I think about these experiences and when I talk to people, and some people go, well, my boss just gets on my nerves. I'm like, well, is your boss telling you that you're average at best? No. Well, is your boss telling you you're incompetent after you've had one of your most successful implementations? No. Okay, help me understand. How is your boss bullying you? Is it just a differing opinion or different styles where someone has to adjust? Because not everything is bullying. And so when I started breaking down my bullying experiences, she finally realized she wasn't being bullied. She just doesn't like her boss. Okay, so now you can make a decision. Do you want to move on or do you want to stay? We fast forward, and I am now a junior manager because, at my first job, you would appreciate this. I was reported to HR every day for speaking too much slang. I was reported for wearing pants. Every day there was something.
Wow.
And I know it was just extreme. And so one of the things I learned, because they gave me a mentor, two mentors. One was an African-American female, and they assumed that she and I would have things in common simply because we were both Black. And then they gave me an older white male. The African-American female was more about telling me to do what I got to do to fall in line. And that it's not part of my nature. I have to be true to myself. And I didn't even realize I was a rebel back then. But I went to my white male mentor and I told him, I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm reported every day for wearing pants. And back then I was only making $30-something thousand a year, a very small amount of money. I didn't have the budget to go and buy a whole new wardrobe so I could wear dresses and pantyhose every day. And he was like, this is ridiculous. The admin at HR, she wears pantsuits every day. So they sent a note out saying everybody could wear pants now. And so I'm like, okay, I was a game changer back then. Okay. And so I will tell you, if I can give you any advice, speak up for yourself. It may not always go the way you want, but you always are in a position of power. Because then I go, I'm doing all this work, I'm working around the clock. And I remember this man coming to me and he says, if they don't promote you by the end of this, you need to quit. Well, there was a counterpart and he was a white male. And in the engineering industry, we all know they typically do not promote women, let alone women of color. And he didn't work hard for the entire 2 years. And I walk into my boss's office and we have my performance evaluation. He tells me he promoted the other guy and he only had one promotion slot. The next day I walked in and I said, I quit. Gave him my letter and I exited. He's like, wait, what do you mean? We need you. Well, you should have thought about that when you were deciding who you were going to promote and who you weren't. As I was mentioning, fast forward, now I have children. And it's something about when you have children that it makes it, you're less courageous, I would say, because you're worried about, I got to pay mortgage, I got childcare, all these different things. And I'm in management at this point, and my boss's boss's boss calls me into a meeting at 6 a.m. Didn't include my boss. He included his peers and some of the architects. And I walk through the door and he starts yelling at me, berating me. And he accused me of stuff that he knew I didn't do because he had already assigned it to the architects. And so I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not even assigned to this work anymore. What do you mean that I did
In front
these
of
things
everybody? In front of everybody?
in front of everyone?
Okay.
So then he says, well, I'm just going to call it like I see it. She's incompetent. And I'm like, okay.
I'm holding my tongue. I'm ready to snap right now. Go on, love.
I just looked at him and I'm a firm, like I said, you never let him see you sweat. So I
Right.
looked him in the eye and I said, you're entitled to your opinion. But as for this conversation, it's over.
Mm.
So grabbed my things, left, went straight to the bathroom where I cried it out, got it all out of my system. I always say have a system, because if you don't have a system, then chances are they will take you out. And my system was, if I have to go to the bathroom to cry it out so I can get it out and not keep it in, then I'm going to go to the bathroom, cry it out, smack my cheeks, put some Visine back in my eyes. And I always looked in the mirror and said, game face on. So they never knew that they were getting to me. And then one day I came in and they continued and I just said, I quit. I didn't even have a job to go to. I trusted something would come up.
Mm.
I always tell people you have to get grounded in, I call it your superpowers or your genius, because if you're not grounded in who you are and what you bring to the table, when you experience these encounters, these people will take you out because that's their mission, to make you not believe. The week that I launched my book, I contemplated not launching my book because I had just learned of someone who had committed suicide. And I didn't want this particular company to correlate my book to someone else's death. And but I was reminded by one of my family, my sister, and it was basically, this is why you wrote the book, because you're on a mission to save lives. When I look at everything that I've gone through, someone asked me not too long ago, they said, are you angry with boss X? And I'm like, no. And they were like, why? I said, because I realized he didn't do anything to me that God didn't allow. The reality of the matter is that God had a plan for me, and I wasn't making it easy to step into my purpose. I was still trying to hang on to things that he was saying, let go of. And, I always joke because I'm in Texas. I say he put his big old Texas cowboy boot on and kicked me in the back and said, I told you to get out of here. But when it's all said and done, you have to trust the process. And when things are being complicated, instead of you looking at it from the position of why is this happening to me, I'm a firm believer we should be asking, what is it exactly that God is wanting me to do? Because if it was of him, there would be ease and flow. The fact that it's not of him is saying that I'm being disobedient and I'm trying to have it my way. And I paid hard having it my way. I can be pretty stubborn. God is going to always have the final say so, and the last hurrah, I guess, as you want to call it, I had this boss, and I think he was super intimidated by me. I was winning. And I remember asking him, how can you win like I am and you still not see the victory? Like, how do you win like I'm winning and you're still seeing all this negative? And his response to me was, you're average at best. And I'm like, got it. And so he would say a lot of things. He made me take my work. And after I did all this stuff, my team and I are organized, ready to do it. He would tell me to give it to the guy. And then he would try to force me to help him behind the scenes. And I'm like, yeah, no, this is not going to be smoke and mirrors. I've always advocated for myself. And he said, you're not being a good teammate. And I said, well, if you mean doing the work for someone else is being a good teammate, I guess you're right. I'm not doing the work for him. We get paid the same amount of money, and I have the same expectations you have of me. is what you should have of him. The guy eventually quit. He couldn't do his job.
Well, Miss Charlotte, I really think from what I'm hearing that you are a humble woman.
Yes.
Can't say the same for myself.
Mhm.
I've gone through hell and back. Okay. There's some people who have thick skin and there's some people who do not.
Mhm.
I started off with very thin skin,
Mhm.
but my skin is so thick right now.
I got you.
And I had to get there because of all that torture, that pain, that
Mhm.
manipulation, that degrading in the workplace,
Yes.
and yes, it does get hard, especially
Mhm.
as a parent when you have to rely on that income and
Mhm.
jeopardize it. I mean, I've worked with people who have been rude to me, even up to this past 2 years,
Yep.
and I have to hold my tongue.
Mhm.
But I hold my tongue not to save my job, but to save that person. I'm sorry. I'm being so honest because they're
Mhm.
not worth it. They're not worth it. People, her book is called Trauma in the Workplace. She needs help. She's crying out in this book and she's letting you know her experience. Maybe some of you can relate to it. I believe I can relate to something like that. But like I said, I'm not as humble. And so if my boss has screamed at me like this, immediately from my experience growing up, you put someone in their place before they take advantage of you again and again like a bully.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, you know what's interesting is I reported them to HR,
Mhm.
and HR always supports the bully for the most part. And so then you become victimized again and again. So it's almost like when you decide to speak up, you also have to make sure you have an exit strategy in place. Because chances are you speaking up, especially in the engineering field, it can cause you to be the one terminated. And then you have that blunder on your record.
Well, and they just be quick to fire you. They don't need you.
Yes, they don't.
And behind you that would take less. Um,
Hmm.
you just have to know what to say. Someone always said, "It's not what you say; it's how you say it."
Absolutely.
And when you say it at the workplace,
Mhm. Yeah.
because I don't believe in confrontation in front of people. That right there puts the trigger. It puts my guards up, and
Yes,
the results is not going to be good.
exactly.
First, that if you would like to talk to me in the office, after work, on the side, then
Mhm.
you can do that, but do not embarrass me.
Yes.
Yeah. So
And I've had to have those tough conversations too.
how old were you when that happened again?
Oh, 20 something, 40 something, 50 something. IT is just not a very, um, I guess it's not a very inclusive environment. In fact, I talk to my daughter all the time, like, are you sure you want to be a mechanical engineer? Have you not seen my journey?
Well, it's not your journey. It's let her be who she.
Absolutely. I mean, we say it in joking, sort of, kind of, but I would never try to discourage my kids on the path that they want because I do believe her path will be her path. And my daughter, honestly, she's an athlete, so I think she probably has tougher skin in dealing with some of that nonsense than I did.
Right.
But I don't know if it's the South, but it just seemed more extreme when I moved to Texas.
So tell me something. How long were you with that company? I just want to know because there is no way I could have a boss screaming at me like that all the time.
So one company I was with for 3 years, but it didn't always start. It doesn't always start there. It's kind of like it escalates up out of control. But the minute you decide to speak up, it gets worse. I had gone to the EEOC, reported it. I tried to find a lawyer, and the
Wow.
lawyer told me I made good money for who I am, and I worked for a great company, and I needed to go back and put my head down and do my job.
Wait, for who you are?
Yes.
that what they said?
Mhm.
The EE,
No, the lawyer.
that's even
And he
worse.
never even looked at my document. I had a binder that was like 2 inches thick of evidence, and he
What?
wouldn't even look. And then I finally found a lawyer that was out of my area. And she said, you have so much evidence of all these things, but because it had gone beyond the 6 months, I had passed the statute of limitation. So I would have to go back to work and start enduring all that stuff all over again. And so I didn't just sit, I was doing the things and the strategies. And that's what my book is about. Here's all the mistakes I've learned.
Right.
You're going to learn from my mistakes so that you don't have to endure and experience some of the extremisms that I have because I didn't take certain actions appropriately. I didn't know there was a 6 month statute of limitation. I'm like, here's my evidence. And she was like, it's great, but you can't, it's inadmissible.
So it's a learning process also reading your book. Uh,
Hmm.
it will enable people who are going through similar experiences to,
Yes.
oh, that's what I could do, or that's what I should have did.
Yes. In fact, I just met a lady not too long ago, and she's retired Navy, and she went into the civilian world and was going through some of this trauma. And I literally sat and coached her through what she needs to do. And now she's in the process of setting up her lawsuit.
Well, I don't have time for lawsuits because I know that, like you said, they'll work against you rather
Hmm.
than for you. So
Sometimes,
sometimes some battles are not worth fighting.
yes,
You
it's
know?
better to just move on and find somewhere else
Right.
to work.
So
My
I would
experience.
like to add this, and I don't know if you have it in your book, but my biggest pet peeve in the workplace, and everyone that's watching, please, if you leave your comments down below, I would really appreciate it because I really want to know deep down what people experience, any nationality. This is not a black or white thing, okay? This is about treating people with respect in the workplace. My
Exactly.
biggest pet peeve is the tunnel vision.
Hmm.
You go to work every day, you see these people every day. They're like family,
Hmm.
practically,
Hmm.
and they can't even say good morning.
Oh, yeah. I've had people look at a wall.
Like,
Yeah.
I just never understood that. I really never understood that. I'm a morning person. I wake up, I'm like, good morning, you know?
And I'll tell you, I'm not, but because I know it's important to people, I
Mhm.
bring the energy. And, I typically am a person that try to meet you where you're at, but I've met people where they would rather look at a wall and ignore you
So
than
tell
to
us,
acknowledge your existence. Hmm.
Charlotte,
Hmm.
I gotta read this book, and I'm gonna take time to read it when I'm in my bed, relaxing, and read it little, okay? But I want people to know how to reach you, ask you questions, um, find out how to order the book, and just follow you as you go through your journey. Because I know you're doing a lot of book signing right now and promotions, and you're doing an excellent job, guys. When I went to her book signing, all her books were going like that is good. All right, so tell them how they can reach you.
I have a website. It's Fairchance Consulting, LLC.com. My book can be found on Amazon, but if you want an autograph copy, you can get that through my website. And it even has my email, my telephone number, all of that. That information is there.
Yeah, I can actually see this being a movie just
Yeah.
from what you just told me.
I'll tell you, I was telling my sister earlier, I was like, when I was writing this book, I said I was kind of embarrassed to some degree. Like, I'm a pretty intelligent woman, have all these degrees, and I'm allowing this to happen. But sometimes when you're in that situation, you don't see an out. You feel stuck. And it's almost like this blinder thingy. And she was like, then you need to say that because a lot of people are probably experiencing that same feeling that you're feeling of how did I get here? I was like, it's kind of like when you see a woman who's been abused and she goes, how did I get here? I'm smart. I know how to manage this, this, and this. And yet you find yourself in this abusive situation. And to me, the corporate trauma in bullying is no different.
What encouraging words would you tell someone right now that's going through bullying at work?
I will tell you the assignment I was given, which was come up with 100 things that's great about you. And the reason why I say that is because once you get grounded in how amazing you are, it doesn't matter what the bullies say. And on top of that, while you're doing your list, and don't do it by yourself, do it through the people that love you, because chances are they're not going to give you the same 100 things. But in parallel, look for your exit strategy.
Man, I love that. I love that. Wow, you were really giving me some positive vibes. Your energy was good in person, and it's even better now because it's like